بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Alhamdulillah, we continue the reading of Surah Taha. Yesterday we began with the introduction, in which this first 8 ayat of Surah Taha is known for being the verses that caused Umar radiallahu anhu to accept Islam. He set out to kill the Prophet ﷺ, and then he ended up that day becoming a Muslim. And in those verses, Allah says, إِنَّهُ يَعْلَمُ السِّرَّ وَأَخْفَى, that He knows what is secret and what is even more hidden. Umar radiallahu anhu didn't know that the seeds of Iman were planted already in his heart, but Allah knew. Then we began the story of Musa alayhi salam. We began the story of Musa alayhi salam, in which he was traveling and he saw a fire. That fire was a tree, and it spoke to him. And this made him Kalimullah. This made him the one that Allah spoke to directly. And there was a grand introduction of Allah Azza wa Jalla, in which Allah Azza wa Jalla says, La ilaha illa ana, that there is no God except, and this is Allah speaking in the first person, ana, myself. So it's a pretty intense encounter. Imagine being in the desert, in the mountains, and you're lost, and you see a tree that's on fire, but it's not being consumed by the fire, and it begins to talk to you. It tells you to take off your shoes. It's not every day that that happens. So this first episode ended on quite a dramatic cliffhanger, and then the next episode begins with something light. Allah Azza wa Jalla asks, وَمَا تِلْكَ بِيَمِينِكَ يَا مُوسَى? What's that in your hand, in your right hand, O Musa? This is a rhetorical question. Our theology affirms that Allah Azza wa Jalla already knows. But embedded in the nahu is that Allah already knows, because He says tilka. Tilka is referring to a feminine thing, and asa, the staff that he has in his hand, is, the Arabs know, it has a feminine pronoun. وَمَا تِلْكَ بِيَمِينِكَ يَا مُوسَى? He already knows it's Musa. Why does he say Musa? It's because it's a form of endearment. All of the next couple of ayahs, he says, Ya Musa, Ya Musa, Ya Musa. Right? You call upon your son, you call upon your daughter. Right? Come here, O Muhammad. Come here, O Taha. Come here, O Ibrahim. This is a form of endearment and a way to help Musa alayhi salam take it a little easy. Take it, because it's quite intense. So Musa alayhi salam says, قال هي عصاي أتوكأ عليها وأهش بها على غنمي ولي فيها مآرب أخرى. That this is my staff. I lean on it. I shake it. I use it to shake the leaves for my sheep. And the word hushu is kind of like an onomatopoeia. You can hear the ruffling of the leaves. وَأَهُشُّ بِهَا, right? Just like the word buzz. It signifies a buzzing sound, but what does a buzzing sound like? Buzz. So وَأَهُشُّ بِهَا عَلَى غَنَمِي وَلِيَ فِيهَا مَآرِبُ أُخْرَى, and I have other uses for it. It's not a very important answer. Like Musa, Allah Azza wa Jalla asked, what is this? He could have just said, this is my staff, and that's it. But he is so awestruck that he just wants to continue talking. What happens when you meet someone that you look up to, or someone who is a celebrity, someone that's famous, and they ask you a simple question, and you give them your life story? Because you just want to keep talking, you just want to keep talking. قال ألقها. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, throw it. قال ألقها يا موسى. And ألقها is in the form of not far, but throw it close, drop it. يا موسى. فألقاها فإذا هي حية تسعى. So Musa tossed it, and immediately it became a حية تسعى, a large but fast-moving snake. قال خذها, and the hayya, there's many names, words for snake, but hayya is the biting snake, the one with its fangs that are out. So it's very close to Musa alayhi salam, And Allah Azza wa Jalla kind of relaxed the situation by asking an easy question. What is in your arm? And then he intensifies the situation again, and he makes the staff out of nowhere into a large, kind of scary looking snake. فإذا هي حية قال خذها ولا تخف سنعيدها سيرتها الأولى. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, take it or grab it and don't be afraid. سنعيدها سيرتها الأولى. We will return it to its original form. So we notice the order that Allah Azza wa Jalla first says take it and then don't be afraid. He didn't say don't be afraid and then take it. This signifies that Allah Azza wa Jalla is teaching Musa alayhi salam, because he's preparing him for a grand task, to first place trust in Allah Azza wa Jalla's amr, to place trust in Allah Azza wa Jalla's command, and then to also ask questions, take consolation. And we have to remember that this is the story of Musa alayhi salam, but it is a story that is being told to the Prophet alayhi salam in the Meccan period where he's going through a difficult time. So he and the Sahabi, as well as ourselves, are being taught that then when there is something irrational, sometimes unbelievable that Allah does, where there's a clear command to do it, we do it and we place our trust in Allah Azza wa Jalla. And Imam Suyuti mentions here that Musa alayhi salam grabbed the front end of the snake, not the back end. And when he grabbed it by its lips, and he mentions it here, that's when the snake returns back into the shape of a staff. So a miracle, a mu'jiza, like the breaking of the physics of the laws of physics, but also a deep lesson in placing our trust in Allah Azza wa Jalla when there is a clear commandment, because we don't do things as Muslims because there is some benefit for us or for the world. We do things because Allah said so, and the hikmah, the wisdom of Allah Azza wa Jalla, is to always provide a benefit for the believers in being obedient to Allah. وَاضْمُمْ يَدَكَ إِلَى جَنَاحِكَ تَخْرُجْ بَيْضَاءَ مِنْ غَيْرِ سُوءٍ آيَةً أُخْرَى. And place your right hand in your armpit, and when you take it out, it will be shining, it will be glowing, radiant white without any faults. And this is another ayah, this is another sign. لِنُرِيَكَ مِنْ آيَاتِنَا الْكُبْرَى. We show you these two to show you from amongst our great signs. So now that Allah Azza wa Jalla has shown him two miracles, he gives him the task. اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى. Go to Fir'aun, for indeed he has been rebellious. And Imam Suyuti mentions that his rebellion is in him claiming divinity and claiming himself to be Lord, where we see numerous times in the ayah already Allah emphatically says, La ilaha illa ana, that only I am the one that is Lord. Now in response to this commandment, he's already aided by two miracles. He's already comforted by Allah Azza wa Jalla. Musa alayhi salam makes a dua. قَالَ رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِسَانِي يَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي. He says, رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي. My Lord, expand for me my chest. The expansion is to be able to take on this heavy burden, to take on this heavy task. وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي. And make for me the deliverance of this message easy. We see in other episodes that Musa alayhi salam is prone to anger. In fact, in a previous time in his life, he had accidentally killed someone. And in the later episodes in this surah, we will see where he loses his temper with his brother. وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي. And make my affair, make this task of mine easy. وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِسَانِي يَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي. That unlock the knot in my tongue. So Musa alayhi salam, he was born with a stutter. Even as a young child, and he was in the palace of Fir'aun, right? Where they had probably all sorts of medicine and healing and experts, but this was something that he was afflicted with. And he says, so that yafqahu qawli. He says, make my affair easy for me, so that I don't lose my temper. So this is easy, because oftentimes when one becomes angry, they begin to stutter. They begin to lose their sequence of thought. when you have to make an argument, especially with the emperor, the king, you have to have a very tight argument. Argument 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, boom. You have very little time. And so he's saying not only for me to keep cool, but also to unknot the lock in my tongue, يَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي, so that people can understand me. The word fiqh is used, meaning deep understanding, not yaqilun, people understand. Because sometimes when you hear a lecture, someone asks you, what was the lecture about? Something about the Quran, something about this. But yafqahu qawli means that he wanted his speech to be penetrative, something that deeply impacted the people. And it's an important lesson for when speaking, where there's an Arabic expression, خَاطِبُ النَّاسُ عَلَى قَدْرِ عُقُولِهِم, that address the people according to the level of their understanding, the level of their intellect. يَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي وَاجْعَلْ لِي وَزِيرًا مِنْ أَهْلِي, and make for me a wazir from my family. Wazir comes from wizard, which means a burden. So someone who will take my burden, someone who will be my wazir, right? In Muslim empires, there was always a grand vizier to the emperor, who was essentially the prime minister, who took the daily operations of managing the entire empire, while the emperor was usually busy with expansion and other things, politics, strategy. So who is this wazir to Musa alayhi salam? Harun akhi, Aaron, my brother. Harun is known as Aaron in the Bible and in the Torah, and this is what makes Harun also a prophet of Allah Azza wa Jal. Ushdud bihi azri, so that he can aid me, he can intensify ushdud bihi azri, that by him my back is intensified, which in layman's terms is so that he can get my back. Right? Harun akhi, my brother, make him my wazir so that he can get my back. Wa ashrikhu fi amri, and that he can take part in this matter of mine, in this task of mine. Kay nusabbihaka kathiran wa nadhkuraka kathiran innaka kunta bina basiran. Why? Why does he want Harun, his brother, to be his wazir, his compatriot, the one who supports his back, who's got his back? This is the reasoning for his strategy, right? When we look at the problem of Palestine, when we look at the problem of Sudan, when we look at the numerous problems that people under oppression are looking at, we think externally about these economic factors, these geopolitical factors, these militarization, all of these external factors. But Musa alayhi salam says, كَيْ نُسَبِّحَكَ كَثِيرًا وَنَذْكُرَكَ كَثِيرًا. I want my brother as my aid on this monumental task, so that we can make tasbih of you, that we can glorify you, وَنَذْكُرَكَ كَثِيرًا, and that we can mention you all the time. So know that our stratagem from, in this particular difficult time that we are as a Muslim ummah, that we strategize, we use the techniques of, even as us being part of the social media buzz and donating our wealth, it's part of the strategy, but we never let go of our tasbih and dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jalla throughout it all, because our aqidah affirms, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Nothing is outside of the control and power of Allah Azza wa Jalla, and so it is happening as Allah wills. We do our part, and Allah is the one who takes care of all affairs. إِنَّكَ كُنْتَ بِنَا بَصِيرًا, indeed you have always been watching over us. And we conclude this episode, and inshallah Allah Azza wa Jalla will switch to an episode in the past of Musa alayhi salam before continuing our linear story. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.
بارك الله فيك. جزاك الله خير. ربنا يتقبل إن شاء الله.